Okay, cool. So let's jump right in. And I am going to record this so I could send it to you guys after. So my name's Bob Vieira. I'm the founder and the owner of a company called Universal Short Sales. We're a full service short sale processing company. We service the entire state of Florida and really the United States. Florida is our biggest market. I actually live in Sarasota, so that's our biggest market there is Florida. I wanted to put this webinar together for you guys. There's something happening in Florida right now that we're personally seeing in my business that I feel like a lot of people, especially Florida real estate agents, are missing. So, right now in Florida, as we all know, Florida's in the headlines, super hot market. There's still bidding wars. People are moving here in the droves. We all read the headlines and see what's happening. But one thing that's going under the radar is the distressed market here in our state. Guys, Florida right now leads the country, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but Florida leads the country in gross amount of active pre-foreclosures. There are thousands and thousands of people right now in the state of Florida that just simply cannot pay their mortgage. And you, as a real estate agent, can seize this opportunity, learn how to help these homeowners because the problem's only going to get worse. If you're able to pivot and do this, it is going to increase your business and your commissions and really your fulfillment tenfold. So let's jump right in here. As I said before, my company is Universal Short Sales. Just a really quick background what we do. So we're a full service short sale processing company. So I'm not sure how familiar anybody is here with short sales, but they're very long, very confusing, complicated, and they're just a gigantic pain in the ass, if I'm being honest. People hate to do them. So I set up a company where we literally streamline the entire short sale from start to finish. So, the lender documents, the appraisals, being the point of contact for the lender, absolutely everything from A to Z, we cover it. And we team up with Florida real estate agents on your short sale listings. Because again, I don't know if you guys have ever done a short sale. As an agent, you do not want to be actually processing the short sale. It's a nightmare, and then it's going to take away from your focus on what it is you do best. Getting more business, listing properties, negotiating for your seller, so on and so forth. So we do that all. We don't charge the seller a dime, don't charge you a dime either. The buyer pays us a fee on the HUD. Very, very clean, simple model. Like I said, guys, as I'm going through these slides, very, very conversational. Shout out your questions, put them in the chat, and we'll talk. So, okay, what is a pre-foreclosure in Florida? In its most simplest form, when I say the word pre-foreclosure, once somebody does not pay their mortgage for around 3 months, once it gets give or take around that 90-day mark, the bank is going to start the foreclosure process. So they're going to send them the packet in the mail, notifying them in writing that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because you guys haven't paid us, we are officially starting the process. We are filing in the courts of Florida to take your property back via foreclosure. Like I said, the banks are super backed up, so it might actually go a little bit longer than 90 days. But give or take, it's around that 90-day mark of somebody not paying. Typically is when they're going to get that letter, and then the bank is going to start the foreclosure process. So what exactly is happening right now in the state? I touched on it a little bit before. So right now there's over 35,000. And guys, this number is literally growing month over month. So actually it could even be more than this at this point. But there's over 35,000 active people that are in pre-foreclosure just in our state alone. That's a massive, massive number when you think about how early we are, in everything that's going on. We're not even into 2024 yet. We're barely touching 2024, and there's already this many active pre-foreclosures. Keep something else in mind. Remember, a pre-foreclosure is when somebody gets 90 days behind. So the 35,000 people, that doesn't even count homeowners who are just starting to miss their foreclosure mortgage payments. Maybe they're a month behind, maybe they're 2 months behind. It doesn't even account for those people. All right. Florida by far is leading the country when it comes to gross number of people behind on their mortgage payments. So, there's a real problem. And keep this in mind too. Property insurance. I'm sure in all your guys' markets in Florida right now, this is happening. Property insurance is starting to skyrocket. That causes people to not be able to make their payments to the bank. Everything is escrowed, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So even though they buy a property at a 30-year fixed rate, a low interest rate, guess what? If their property insurance and even property taxes are starting to jump, that's a major problem. And we're seeing a lot of that in real time right now. So where exactly is the opportunity for you guys as agents? So again, as I mentioned before, Florida is super hot. It's in the news. People are hundreds of people a day. People are moving here in droves. Well, guess what? That means that all of your competitors in your market are focused on that. Trust me when I tell you, I partner with real estate agents for a living. Everybody is focused on how booming Florida is, the bidding wars, the retail market. Everybody's focused on the retail market. Right now, there's a huge void in the distressed market in Florida. Nobody's paying any attention, again, because things are so hot. It's being extremely underlooked and undervalued by your competitors. I promise you that. So, right now, it's the perfect time for you guys as agents to pivot your business model. When I say pivot, I don't mean completely stop whatever it is you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing, stay in your lane. It's working, I'm sure, but start to add distressed real estate into your business model right now. Learn how to go after pre-foreclosure leads, serve mortgage delinquent sellers, and most of all, mortgage modifications. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with mortgage modification leads. I'm actually going to give you my 3-step process that my team and I use to convert mortgage modification leads into listing leads. This is a skill, I'm telling you right now. You're going to come across more and more people, and I'm going to explain what a mortgage mod is in a second. You're going to come across more and more people that are behind on their mortgage because, again, maybe their insurance went up, whatever the case is, they can't pay the bank, but they want to stay in their house. 99% of your competitors are passing on these leads. They're called mortgage modification leads, and they're happening in droves in the state of Florida right now. If you learn how to convert these leads into listings, it is going to be a jackpot for you. It is going to be unbelievable for your business. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything like that about, what's happening in Florida? Maybe I'm missing something. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about mortgage modification leads. Now, a mortgage modification is when somebody is behind on their mortgage payments with the bank, but they want to stay in their house. They want to keep their home. A lot of times it's an emotional attachment. Maybe it's their first ever investment property that they bought back in the day. Maybe it's the house that they raised their family in. Whatever the case is, they don't want to give up. They want to keep their property and work it out with the bank. So the bank in these situations lets the homeowner apply for a mortgage modification. So this modification is essentially a lifeline. It's a second chance for the homeowner to pay their mortgage on time and get back on track. So the mortgage mod process, it's very long, it's very drawn out. It takes months and months and months to complete. They have to submit their bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns. The homeowner submits all of their financials into the bank, and the bank reviews it, and they're looking for one of two things in order to approve the mortgage modification and let them stay in their house. Either A, a drastic increase in the homeowner's income, proving, okay, we could pay the mortgage now. Or B, they're going to look for a drastic reduction in expenses and household expenses to say, hey, we're not making any more money, but, our expenses are less so we could afford the mortgage. I'm telling you right now, if the bank does not see at least one of those two things, they're going to deny the homeowner's mortgage modification application. And, this isn't a good thing, but it's just reality. A very high percentage gets declined. A very high percentage gets declined. It's sad, but it's just a sad reality. This is where the opportunity comes in.
This one is.
Your competition, literally all of your competition. Listen, I hate to make blanket statements, but literally all of your competition is passing up on these leads. They hop on the phone with the seller. Sorry, the homeowner. They say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I see you're behind, whatever. Homeowner says, thanks, but no thanks. I'm working it out with the bank to keep my house. And then your competition, the realtor, says, okay, thank you. And then they click on to the next one. I used to do the same thing. Think about it. Someone's telling you that they don't want to sell. So I'm here today to tell you guys, don't hang up the phone. Stay on the phone. These are unbelievable leads here. So, okay, I'm going to give you my 3-step process, proven process. This is literally what my team and I do. It works. So write it down as I'm going. And then if I'm going too fast, because I tend to go way too fast sometimes, especially when I'm excited about a topic, slow me down, yell at me, say, hang on, Bob, back up, say that again. All right. Step 1. Wait. Before I go forward, does anyone have a question on what a mortgage modification actually is? Because you have to understand that to know what how you're going to convert it to a listing. Put it in the chat, guys, if you don't want to say it. Carolyn said there are currently only 4 short sales in Lee County, active and pending. Yeah. And listen, that number is going to grow over time. And then there's a lot of short sales, keep in mind too, Carolyn, that just don't hit the market. They don't hit the market. I mean, they have to be entered into the MLS, but, a lot of times people are able to just enter them and then they go settled fast. But keep in mind too, Carolyn, this isn't like a short sale pitch. I was just telling you what my company specifically specializes in. These are for you guys to just get pre-foreclosures. If they're short sales, great. If not, that's better for you. Edward said, how does it work when the owner bought the property with 5% down and there's no equity? How do banks deal with expenses accrued during the foreclosure? Just write it off. That's a great question, Ed. So I'll get into this a little bit later when we'll talk about short sales, but to answer your question, yeah, those 5%, 3.5% down mortgages, yeah, they're a real problem. Most of those end up being short sale situations, to answer your question. And they don't necessarily, yeah. I mean, they write it off after the short sale. Yes, that's what they do. So, okay. Anyway, so let's dive into mods again. So, okay, step number 1 to convert mortgage modifications. You're going to stay on the phone, number 1, when you're on with them. Step 1, stay on the phone, okay? Build rapport and be supportive. If you're writing this down and you write be supportive, underline it. That is absolutely key. What so many real estate agents do, the mistake they make, is when they're on the phone with the mortgage modification lead and the homeowner tells them, hey, Bob, thanks, but no thanks, but I actually want to keep my house. They try to convince them and give them a sales pitch on why they need to sell their property, list and sell it instead of doing the modification. This is a massive mistake. All you're going to do is separate yourself emotionally from the seller, and you're going to come off like a greedy listing agent. You do not want to do that. In fact, do the complete opposite. Literally support their decision. Support their decision to try to keep their house. So step number 1, you're just going to build rapport, let the conversation flow, literally support their decision to do the modification, literally wish them luck. Okay. As you're building rapport, as you're being supportive, it's going to flow into step number 2, which is you're going to end the call with permission to follow up during the mod process. And as long as you execute step number 1 correctly and you're supporting them and you're letting the conversation flow, building rapport, step number 2 is going to come very, very easily. You will almost 100% of the time get permission to follow up with them along the entire modification process. It should sound something like this. Hey, Fred, listen, great talking to you. Again, best of luck with the mortgage mod. I think that's amazing. I hope everything works out. Listen, just in case it doesn't, because we all know banks could be a pain in the butt to deal with, I'd love to keep in touch with you throughout the modification process and, just to check in with you, make sure you don't need anything from me. And then, listen, if it doesn't work out, I would love to be your plan B. I'd love to be your plan B and help you list and sell the property. Something along those lines will always get, yep, sure, Bob, you can follow up with me, no problem. Because remember, the mod process is very long. It's going to take several months. So, okay, step number 1, build rapport and be supportive of them keeping the property. Step number 2, get permission to follow up during the mod process. Step number 3, this is very specific. We have this down to a science. Step number 3, as soon as the call ends, go into your CRM and you're going to schedule a follow-up for once every 3 weeks during the process. We found this to be the best because you don't want to follow up too often and annoy them, but you don't want to let too much time lapse either. So once every 3 weeks, you're going to follow up with them during the process, and you're going to call and text. Very important details here. Call and text, and most of the time, you're not going to get them on the phone. It's a high stress situation. They're busy to begin with. The bank needs all sorts of financial documents from them. So they're very busy in this. Most of the time, they're not going to answer your call, which is why you need to, 1, leave a voicemail with your first and last name. And there's 2 reasons you want to leave a voicemail with your first and last name. Number 1, you're building brand recognition. It's the same thing as driving down the street every day to your office and seeing the same billboard. It's brand recognition, your first and last name. They're just going to get used to hearing it. Number 2, most importantly, guys, you're building trust and credibility with the seller because you're doing exactly what you told them you were going to do. When you hung up that first call, you ended the call saying, I am going to check in with you during the modification process. I am there with you step by step. And now you're actually doing what you said you're going to do. You're building amazing rapport even when they don't answer your call. So make sure you're leaving your first and last name so they know who you are. Hang up the phone, immediately send a text message, again, with your first and last name. And the message should always be very casual. Don't be too salesy. Remember, you're not trying to push them into list. You are simply supporting them through the process, staying there with them side by side, and just very, very casual. Hey, Joe, Bob Vieira here. Checking in, just seeing how the mod's coming along. Something super casual like that. You just want them to continuously see your first and last name checking in. And then what's going to happen? The magic starts to happen as you get more and more of these mortgage modification leads in your pipeline, and you're continuously following up with them. One by one, they're going to start to convert into listings. Because remember, the unfortunate reality of these mortgage mods is a very high percentage of them end up getting declined by the bank, and they have to sell when that happens. And you following up with them, you are way ahead all of your competitors who are just doing their first cold call to the seller. It's not even close. They're not even going to consider listing with your competitors. Questions on mortgage modifications, guys? Anything, please. Okay. If you think of anything, put it in the chat. Now, is everybody good with the 3 steps? Okay. Here's a real quick snapshot just to paint a picture for you. This is my current pipeline of mortgage mods that we're following up with, my team and I. There's give or take 130. And guys, let's say 50% get declined, which is totally possible. Boom, that's 65 hot seller leads. You guys could do the same exact thing. And we have a question here. Edward said, how to get leads. Ed, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say it. Great question. So the beautiful part about mortgage modification is there's no list you could purchase. That's the best part about it. Because whenever you could go purchase a list, there's going to be a lot of competition. You are building your pipeline of mortgage modification leads literally organically. That's the best part about it. It's actually illegal for banks to give lists of mortgage mod people. They can't, like if I needed a mortgage modification with my bank right now, they're legally not allowed to like sell that information or give that information away. But yeah, that's the best part about them, Ed. All right, last thing about mortgage mods here. We're going to go a little second level. Now, you're not going to want to do this for every person that you're dealing with a mortgage mod. Only selective people. So let's say you're talking to a homeowner and they're in the middle of a modification and you do the 3-step process I just taught you and you're following up month after month. Let's say they finally reach back out to you and they say, hey, Bob, listen, I really appreciate you following up with me and keeping in touch, but our modification actually got approved by the bank. Thank you. We're good. Now, if you know in your heart of hearts, in your gut, you just know this seller's situation and you're like, huh, how the hell did the bank approve them? I know they can't make these mortgage payments. In those situations, you're going to set one more follow-up for 30 days, every 30 days, not the once every 3 weeks, every 30 days. And the reason is this. Whenever a bank approves someone's mortgage mod application, the process isn't over. The bank puts them on what's called a trial modification period. This is a 90-day period where the seller has to be perfect. They have to make their payments once every 30 days perfect. If they miss one single payment during the trial period, the bank pulls the rug out from underneath them and they're done. They rescind their modification offer and they can't even apply for another one. They're done. They have to sell. Again, be careful of your time. You're not going to want to do this with everybody, but if you just have a gut feeling about somebody, you could do this because you could still pick up the listing on the back end. All right, let's jump over to another huge source, which is simple phone prospecting. So there's tons and tons of sources, guys, of where to find pre-foreclosure leads. These are the top 3 that I'm familiar with. I've actually used 2, and I've never went to the county courthouse. I'll be honest, I'm too lazy. But number 1, if you want to take the time out of the day, go to the county courthouse, get the pre-foreclosure leads. You could absolutely do that. It's probably the most cost-effective way to do it, I'd imagine. Number 2 is RedX. So I don't know if anybody's using RedX here. If you are, feel free to jump in. I've used RedX in the past. I think it's really good for real estate agents specifically because it gives you the pre-foreclosure list and then you could get like expireds and FSBOs and all that other stuff, you guys could prospect to. So RedX is a really good one. And then I like to use PropStream. I love PropStream for pre-foreclosure lists. It's that's what I'm using right now. It's about $100 a month, $99 a month. And then you get a free trial. Like if you sign up for the first time, they'll give you a free trial of the first 7 days just so you could test drive it. So I like that to pull into skip trace my pre-foreclosure leads, because you could skip trace them and get everyone's number right there. So PropStream is a really good one. But yeah, there's tons of, there's tons of sources. I'm sure Batch Leads probably has some stuff. I mean, there's so many ways to pull pre-foreclosure lists. Now, when it comes to actually talking to them, okay, here's the big part. So I'm not sure how many of you guys have when you're cold calling, have a sales script, like a phone script. And if you do, I'm sure it works for you. I know they're very, very effective in most situations. My advice, I highly suggest that if you and your team are going to be prospecting to pre-foreclosures, either ditch your hardline sales script completely or at least modify it. You want to be conversational. The last thing, this is a very delicate situation when someone's behind on their mortgage. They're getting threatening letters from the bank. They're getting phone calls. It's a very high stress situation. The last thing on earth the seller wants is for, Mr. or Mrs. aggressive real estate agent to call them and give them a hardline sales pitch, clearly just trying to profit from their distress situation. You just want to be very careful how you're coming across over the phone. You want it to be very conversational and you want to show empathy. So I would either ditch the sales script altogether or modify it and just make it conversational. And then another big thing when you're talking to pre-foreclosure sellers or any kind of mortgage delinquent sellers, you should be listening to them. Literally 80 to 90% of the conversation. You should just shut up and listen. They're going to want to vent to you about their bank. They're going to want to go into great detail about their situation because it's usually complicated and kind of crazy. You should just be listening and letting them talk. And then when it is your turn to talk, there's 4 very specific questions you have to get answered. Very, very specific questions. Here they are. Take a screenshot, take some notes. This is crucial. So many people miss this. And the reason you don't want to miss this is because if you get a really good seller lead that you could help that is behind on their payments, well, that's great. But guess what? You have to know how you can help them. What's the exit strategy of how you're going to help? So many real estate agents, they'll call the seller, they'll do everything awesome. They'll build rapport, let the conversation flow. Excellent. But they won't ask these 4 questions. So they hang up the phone and they're like, oh shit, how do I actually help them now? You have to get the answers to these questions. It's crucial. Or the deal's either going to die or it's just going to be really complicated. Number 1, you need to find out how many months are they behind on the mortgage. Even if they don't know for certain and they're deep into pre-foreclosure, get a ballpark of it. After that, you're going to say, okay, well, has your bank started the foreclosure process yet? You have to know that. Are you dealing with somebody who's maybe a couple months behind? Or are you dealing with an active foreclosure situation that's very urgent? Now, if the answer to that question is yes, they filed a foreclosure on me, I am in pre-foreclosure, your immediate question has to be, did they give you a sale date? Guys, don't forget to ask this question because so the reason I created this little checklist that I'm giving you is literally because I had to do it for myself because I wasn't asking the right questions. I was rushing through the call and then I would get off and I go, oh shit, I have to call them back. And they have to call them back, get all this information. You're just creating chaos for yourself. These mortgage delinquent listings are complicated enough. Don't create more chaos. So now, if the answer, so let's say they say yes, I have a foreclosure sale date for next week. Like this is the kind of stuff you need to know. Because if you don't ask it, you're not going to know there's a foreclosure sale date coming up. And Florida, keep this in mind too. Especially if you decide to prospect to pre-foreclosures, don't be surprised if you're coming across people that are super deep into pre-foreclosure, like a crazy amount of months deep into pre-foreclosure, because Florida is a judicial foreclosure state. What this means is a bank can't just come knocking on the door when you don't pay them and foreclose. They have to take the seller through the entire court system, and that just prolongs everything. So, and then the final question you need to ask is, what do you owe? How much you owe? What's your mortgage balance? And this is important because that's going to tell you whether or not they have any equity. Because I'm sure you guys are experts in your market. So, once they tell you how much they owe, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I mean, I have to see the property to see how much it's worth, but you'll probably be able to tell fairly quickly if they have equity or not. That's a big one. So, a lot of people that are deep into pre-foreclosure, they're not going to have equity. Even in this hot market that we're in, I'm telling you, they're not going to have equity and you're going to have to do a short sale. So find that information out in the very beginning. Before I switch gears, did you guys all take a picture of this, screenshot? Everybody cool? Anybody not cool? You need me to leave it up? Fair enough. So, okay. So speaking of short sales, what is a short sale in real estate? All right. A short sale in its simplest form is when two things are happening. Number one, the homeowner's behind on their mortgage. Number two, they don't have equity. So the as is value of their house is less than what they owe the bank on their mortgage. The mortgage is more than what the property is worth. It's that simple. In this situation, the bank will let them sell short of what the balance is. And the rest gets wiped away clean, the difference, and they do not go into foreclosure. It does not get recorded as a foreclosure. So, quick example here, just to paint a picture. I own a property. It's worth around 250K, but I owe the bank 300,000. Property's worth 250. I owe 300. In a short sale situation, the bank is going to let me sell for the 250 that it's worth. And the difference, that $50,000, it's called the deficiency, they're going to wipe that away clean. They're going to forgive it. So I, as the seller, do not have to show up to closing and cut them a check for the difference. And it does not get recorded as a foreclosure. So I save myself from foreclosure. Questions on the basic definition of a short sale? Anybody? Okay. And keep in mind too, there's nothing short. So many people think because it's called short sale that it's going to be like real. No, there's nothing short about a short sale. The process takes forever. So I put 4 to 6 months on average. It could absolutely take longer than that, just so you know. Okay. Now, again, I have to reiterate this again. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, well, there's no short sales now because, the market's so hot. Yes, the market is hot, but trust me, people, people in this country will find a way to lose equity in their homes. We're doing numerous short sales right now where people bought their properties even within the last 3 years, but they overpaid because of bidding wars by such a vast amount that as soon as they can't make their payments to the bank, they're underwater already. Think about this too, guys. How many people had record amounts of equity these past couple of years because of how low interest rates are and how high the values were skyrocketing? How many people do you think refinanced or they got a HELOC, with their equity and pulled that equity out to buy that new boat they always wanted or renovate the kitchen like they always wanted to do? A lot. I mean, a lot of people did that. So, and keep another thing, Florida is a judicial state, as I said. So people get very, very deep into pre-foreclosure. The deeper you get into pre-foreclosure, fees, interest, penalties, etc., they compound against the principal balance and they eat up people's equity. So keep your eyes open for short sales because you'll absolutely see them. Now, how do you know if you have a qualified short sale? There's 3 factors you're looking for. Number 1 is negative equity. So, Going back to that example, property's worth 250K. The mortgage balance is 300. They are underwater. They have negative equity. That's the first thing. Second thing, mortgage delinquency. So they're behind on their payments. And a lot of times, maybe they're making their payments, but they're soon to be behind. They're like, hey, listen, I'm making my payments now, but I just lost my job. I don't think I can make next month's payments. That's a qualified short sale too. And then the third factor to qualify a short sale, which I love to call the bonus factor, they cannot be motivated by money. I repeat, they cannot be motivated by money. In a short sale, the seller is not getting any money. They cannot have any profits. So their main motivation has to be to just avoid foreclosure and just get out of the bad situation without owing any money at closing. If they're only motivated by money and they don't really give a shit about a foreclosure on their record, it's not a good lead. They're bad idea. So net equity, behind on payments, and they cannot be motivated by money. That's how you qualify a short sale. That's all the information I have for you guys. But I do have a free course. I don't know if anyone's in it now. Maybe you already signed up for it, but yeah, this is my gift to you, specifically for Florida real estate agents. It's a short sale pre-foreclosure training. We go over pre-foreclosure fundamentals, lead generation, short sale fundamentals, and then I even give you our step-by-step process that my company uses to complete a short sale, literally from start to finish. I give everything to you guys in that free training. So it's recorded. We have hundreds of agents that's already signed up for it. So if you want it, shoot me an email right there, Vieira Companies, and put in the subject line, send me that. Anything, it's just like something I put together for you. And then here's all my info, guys. Stay in touch. Love to network with you guys. If you ever want to set up a call, don't ever feel like you have to have a short sale lead on a platter. I don't care about that. We'll connect and chat. My cell phone, website, email. And if you're not in my Facebook group, make sure you get in that group. Request to join the group. It's private. It's not like one of these gigantic groups where there's like, people spamming everywhere. It's really cool what we're creating in that group. So we give really good information, and it's specific to pre-foreclosures, which is very, very relevant, in the state of Florida right now. While I leave that up there, does anybody have any questions for me, feedback, anything? Anything you want me to go over again? Nothing. Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, if you guys want to drink, just send me an email. In the subject line, just say send me course, and then I'll know you guys were on the webinar. You're welcome, Edward. Thanks for coming. Thank you. All right, guys, if nobody has any questions, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care.